Hello, everyone. I will present today the new cities built in Slovenia between 1945 and 1960. In the first part of the presentation, I will give you a historical background, and then I will examine the three examples of the cities, Kidričevo, Novo Gorico, and Velenje. So, in the years after the Second World War, it was established a communist centralized government, and it was established and it was introduced a short planned economy. At the same time, it was also organized a centralized urban planning policy, which was reorganized in the 50s following some economical reforms and the introduction of the local self-government system. In this period, the work of the Slovenian architects were influenced by the pre-war ideas of Siams, Le Corbusier, and the German rationalist architecture. Despite the political authority control was heavily present in the field of the post-war architecture and town planning. The analyzed literature reveals a widespread enthusiasm and faith in a better future present in the young generation, although it is very important to account for the intensive state's propaganda, which is present in all preserved documents. Now, let us turn to the first city, Kidričevo, located in the southwest edge of Dravsko Polje, close to Ptuju and Maribor. During the First and the Second World War, Kidričevo, it was called Sterntal, and the name was related to the camp units that were located south and in the north of the railway line Pragarsko-Ptuj. And in the picture, you can see some photos and a map of the first military camp and hospital military reserve built by the Austrian authorities. After the end of the First World War, it was transformed in a refugees camp for the people from the Primorska region and for Russian cadet corps. And during the Second World War, the German occupying forces built a new prisoner of war and labor camp south of the railway line to provide workforce for the nearby new factory of aluminium and aluminium. After the Second World War, the camp was taken over by the Yugoslavian authority, and it was converted into a camp for German prisoners of war and political prisoners, and renamed Strnišče Hitlerjev Reichlager. Due to the intervention of the politicians, the industrial minister Franz Lesko-Šeluka and the economic minister Boris Kidrič, the state decided to expand the factory of alumina and to build a new factory of aluminium. The German project and document were not preserved, and only 70% of the factory of alumina was completed. Therefore, a design company, Projektivni Bureau Strnišče, under the supervision of architect Danilo Fürst, was established, and they made the first design for the expansion of the factory of alumina, while the design for the factory of aluminium was made firstly by a Hungarian engineer, Imre Vore, and afterward by a Slovene engineer, Josip Didek. At the same time, it was made also the new regulation plan for the nearby industrial housing estate, made by Danilo Fürst. In the picture, we can see the first regulation plan made by Fürst, and he located the industry south of the railway line, and the housing estate, it was put northern. And If we take a look, at the city center, he organized the city along the main street, and along this street he put the important public and business function facilities. North and south of the main street, they were residential blocks, and in the west part too. Then in 1950, Edvard Ravnikar and Starko Kristel made another plan for Kidričevo, and they included also the buildings that were built by 1948. And this plan of Ravnikar and Kristel shows important influence by the Scandinavian and Swiss urban plan design. Here you can see the constructed building in Kidričevo. And here we have in the photo the inauguration of the new factory and of the city in 1954. Now, if we take a look at Nova Gorica, the city was located close to the border between two towns, Sokan in the north and Šempeter in the south, on the Sokan plain. So the history, so the origin of Nova Gorica is connected with the new boundary between Italy and Yugoslavia after the Second World War. And on the 15th September 1947, the former historical center of Gorica was incorporated to Italy, while the agricultural outskirts belongs to Yugoslavia. And therefore, the Yugoslavian authorities decided to build a new city, a new center for that region. After some discussion about the location of the city, it was chosen the Sokan plan. And here in the photos we can see what was present on this plan before the building of the city. So we can see the railway station of Gorica, then the Erjavčeva street that connected the former city center Gorica with the cemetery here, a factory here, and some fields and residential building for some farmers. So the first plans for Nova Gorica were made locally by the architect Božidar Gvardjančić. But then, when the decision to construct the new city was taken, the minister Ivan Maček Matija assigned the task to design the new city to three architects, Božidar Gvardjančić, Marko Zupančić, and Edvard Ravnikar. So in this slide, you can see the plan of Božidar Gvardjančić on the left and the plan of Marko Zupančić on the right. But these plans were not chosen because Ivan Maček Matija chose the plan of Edvard Ravnikar. He decided to build a city along the main road, the main axis, and in the main axis incorporates building with public and business facilities. The industry was moved to the east. The residential blocks were put near the main axis and to the west. Here, Edvard Ravnikar made work on the urban planning of Nova Gorica until 1950, and he made many different made in different plans. Here you can see the zoning of Nova Gorica and the perspective. In this period until 1950, they were built several buildings, as for example 10 blocks, and then the town hall of Vinko-Glanz. And all the work was made with the help of youth and shock brigades. Now we can turn to Velenje, the third city that is located on the Šaleška Valley. So, although the lignite layer and mining began at the end of the 19th century, by the end of the Second World War, the Šaleška Valley was still an agricultural region. And this slide presents several views on the Šaleška Valley. As you can notice, there were only fields and small villages. So on this photo, on the top, you can see Velenje, on the bottom of the Velenje castle, and here we can see Čelik on the bottom of the Čelik castle. The rapid development of the coal mining contributed to the urbanization and deagrarization of the Šaleška Valley. And many people from the nearby area migrated to the valley and started to work as coal miners. And due to the mass migration, the lack of houses for workers increased gradually. And as a result, William Strmetsky designed in 1948 the urban planning scheme for Šaleška Valley sector Velenje. Based on this Strmetsky design, only the miners' housing estate were built in the north of the river Baka here. So in the 50s, the appointment of Nestor Žgant as director of the lignite mine and the inclination of the politic Franz Lesko-Luka toward the project played a crucial role for the further development of Velenje. And in order to provide better living conditions for the miners, Žgant got in contact with the design organization Slovenia project. And at that time, Janez Trenc, who was working for Slovenia project, prepared a new plan for Velenje. He planned the growth of the estate up to 20,000 and the expansion also to the left bank of the Paka River here. But since the quantity of mine lignite increased from 3 up to 5 million tons annually, Trenc has to change his plan. And according to his according to this, and considering the recommendation of the Šaleška Valley regional plan, he prepared a new general urban design and moved the entire center of the new Velenje to the left bank of Paka River. After the approval of the urban design of Trenc, started to plan the development of the city center. And here you can see on the top the first design of the city center along the main road. And below the second design, and he had to change the first idea due to the pressure of the mine management, and he had to follow the idea of two architects, Paul Filipski and Kurt Zörer, who had been asked to redesign it by the mining director Žgant. The construction of the new city began with mostly volunteer work in 1958, And the opening of the city center was held on 20 September 1959, despite the fact that several buildings were not completed yet. Slovenia project participated in the design of New Velenje until 1961. And after the departure of the head architects, the development of the city gradually moved away from this basic concept. And to conclude, I would like to show you two documentaries of Novo Gorico and Velenje to give you an impression what an impact the building of the cities had on their surrounding. There is no voice, but...
Okay, while we are watching the films, maybe we could start a short discussion. I'm interested, do you know how the programs for those cities were developed? Who was in charge for defining the size of the city regarding the inhabitants? Who was defining the public programs and so on? Obviously, architects and urban planners had some influence on defining the structure and maybe both the programming, but which institution was in charge in defining the, let's say, this quantitative data and input for urban planning?
Mm-hmm. Actually, in Velenje, the director of the coal mine, Strnišče, has a very strong influence on the designing of the city. And in this case, he had also an impact in all the plans. For Novo Gorico, it was at first, I think, the minister, Ivan Maček Matija, but then also the local authorities, because the Ravnica idea were designed, but then a lot of things were changed. And in the case of Kidričevo, it was similar. So the minister had a big impact to the design, and but also the architect.
Yeah. Of course, minister itself himself brought these ideas to the fore, but for sure there must have been some body of professionals who were developing these issues. Yeah.
Yeah, the group for...
So it was ministry, and then minister would push forward the ideas of...
there were a group for Velenje, there were a group of architects in Slovenia project, Janez Tren, Cyril Pogačnik, and Franz Schmid. They were developing the plan, the urban plan of Velenje. For Novo Gorico, there were Edvard Ravnica with other architects that were doing the plan, and so on. They were always group of, so they were the head architect, but also the other group.
You can play the other one if you want. Yeah. Okay, and how about the functioning of these cities today? These three cities have actually three different destinies. So what's their perception nowadays within the general public, and how do they live today? We have a movie at the exhibition, but many of the people here haven't seen the movies, so therefore short commentary on this, please.
Yeah, today, so all three cities were developing. Gorica, the Novo Gorico, it's trying nowadays to do some programs how to connect also with Gorica, because so the things changed with the time, and now the border is not a border anymore, and that's why they are trying to do some. They are doing some plans about how to connect or these two cities and so on. It's not yeah. And for Velenje, it's also developing with the time, and it's growing with different housing estates around the new city center. Yeah.
But it basically maintained the original morphology and
so
structure. That's why it's so interesting even today.
The original idea, it's still there.